All right, cool. Well, yeah, welcome again, Peter, and thanks everyone for joining. We got Peter with us today, who is one of the founders of Uncommon and currently CEO. He's going to tell us a bit about developing tech in Zimbabwe. So over to you, Peter.
Awesome. Great. Well, Kim and Kimberly and the rest of the UX Zimbabwe community, thank you very much for inviting me to participate today and just present a bit about the work that we're doing at Uncommon, and then hopefully have an interesting discussion about design, not just in Zimbabwe, but also around the world. So I'm really excited and just grateful for the opportunity to share a bit about our work. My name is Peter Kazickas. I am a co-founder and the CEO of uncommon.org. I'm calling you guys today from the Northeast of America, from Maine, and I grew up in New York. First went to Zimbabwe when I just turned 18, and I was there to volunteer with a basketball program and just had a wonderful experience. Went back a couple years later, volunteered again, and then after college I was working, teaching coding and robotics to kids, and thought maybe it'd be fun to try to do something like that in Zimbabwe, and called some friends. Luckily, they were looking for work at the time and open to trying something new. So we got some laptops together, went to Zimbabwe and started teaching coding to kids. And that was early 2017, and the rest is history. So that's kind of my connection to Zimbabwe. It actually goes back way earlier. I was first exposed to Zimbabwe when I was like 7 or 8 years old. This gentleman that ran the basketball program was from my town. So from a very early age, I was always intrigued about the country and wanted to go, and was really lucky that after high school, I had the opportunity to go and volunteer. As a designer, I'm not a professional designer at all. I fancy myself a bit of a design enthusiast. I actually love design. I think if my career was different, knowing what I know now, I would probably get into product design. I just think it's so fascinating how you can shape people's emotions and experiences with design. I think every design project is interesting. It combines so much of creativity and artistry and psychology and sociology, and I think it's just an amazing field. And we've always tried to put design front and center at Uncommon. But I'm not coming to you as a professional, just as someone that loves design. So for this presentation, I will just talk to you guys a bit about what Uncommon does, explaining our work, and then talk about design at Uncommon briefly, some of the projects that we're working on, some of the work that we do for other people, and then share just some of the stats and insights about design at Uncommon, but also globally. And then I had a question for you guys that might kickstart, hopefully, an interesting conversation. I can't see anything, I can just see my presentation. So Kim, just let me know if there's questions or comments that arise during the presentation. I'm more than happy to take them as is, rather than just waiting until the end. But definitely feel free to drop questions into the chat, and I'd be more than happy to answer those. So basically, the problem that we see in the world is that access is not distributed evenly. So in our case, access to technology, basically, where you're born, where you're, the situation you're born into, the environment you're born into, I mean, that's pretty much the defining factor, and we don't think that's fair. It doesn't feel right. Genius is everywhere, opportunity is not. So, we also think that potentially with the artificial intelligence, and I'll get into that later, that this problem of the digital divide, access inequality could be exacerbated. Hopefully the opposite happens, but the reality is if you live without access to the internet, reliable electricity, places to learn these skills, it's just going to be really hard, and AI can't necessarily solve that problem. So what we're trying to do is just bring these skills, make them accessible to everybody. And our focus at Uncommon really is on people that are living or surviving on less than $3 per day. When we surveyed our target demographic, about 700 respondents that lived in the communities that we work in and across all of our hubs, the average annual income was about $900. And so that's our focus group. And we really want to help that target group gain meaningful employment in the tech industry. And we see our organization as a launch pad, a place where people can come and learn the skills, get interested and passionate about tech, and then have a wonderful long career after that, where they'll have great opportunities to earn great salaries, work and live abroad, or just further their lives in Zimbabwe. So our model is to invest in the communities that we work in. So we're not extracting young adults from the communities. We're going to the communities and investing our resources there. We're training unemployed young adults in very in-demand tech skills, and then teaching computer coding to kids. So I'll explain that in a bit, but we have two main target demographics: the unemployed young adults, who are about 18 to 30, and the youth, which is about 7 to 18 years old. So we're covering a wide range of people in Zimbabwe through this program. And the goal really is just to kind of digitize the entire community. And soon we'll be offering programs designed to people that are outside our target demographic. But really, we want to just see what happens in 5-10 years from now, when there's been a decade's worth of tech education being received by everybody in the communities that we're working in. So we're pretty optimistic about the future. So on the infrastructure side, this is an example of what we call an innovation hub. This one is in Bulawayo. But basically our goal is to design and build really funky, creative, modern looking spaces, and have them in the communities that we work in. So we like the idea that our spaces can be a juxtaposition, and that they can be bright and shiny, no burglar bars, very inviting, sort of awe-inspiring in areas where maybe some of the infrastructure is a bit more dilapidated, or there's just not as much investment in new and recent technology, or infrastructure. So that's our goal, again, to invest in the communities that we work in. And then inside of those hubs, that's where we run our boot camps designed for unemployed young adults. And the main skills that they're learning starts with UI UX design, goes into front end and eventually full stack development. We have a small group that's studying cloud engineering, and then digital marketing. So the core skills: design, development, and marketing. And then we're beginning to introduce some project management and interlace throughout the entire 12-month boot camp. Every Friday we do soft skills. We call it inner engineering, and we cover a wide range of topics, from professionalism to workers' rights, happiness, mental health. I mean, basically we're trying to really help people develop into young professionals, not just focus on hard tech skills, but also these soft, very valuable soft skills. So those young adults, they're coming to our boot camp and they're studying from about 8 to 12. And then in the afternoon, they're giving back to the communities. Those young adults in our boot camps are the ones that are going into the schools in all of the communities we work in, and offering a free coding lesson each day for the young adults that are at those schools. So it's really a nice program. Not only is it a way of us reaching a lot of young kids and exposing a lot of young children to coding and just sort of the magics of technology and computer science, but also it's a wonderful way for the young adults in our boot camp to develop their leadership skills, to develop their professionalism skills, to feel confident and proud about the impact they're making in their communities. And it's just really it's a nice, sustainable way of reaching a lot of people and making really grassroots impact in the communities that we're working in. So our goal in 2023 is to train about 150 young adults, unemployed young adults, in the full-time boot camp, and that's 12 months every day, and then to teach about 5,000 students in our after-school coding program. And we're on pace to do so, which is pretty exciting. This will be our most impactful year yet. Just a side note about the boot camp: there are no prerequisites to join. There's no financial cost. It's entirely free to the students. It doesn't matter if you dropped out of O-level or never went to school at all. If you're passionate, if you can demonstrate some work ethic and some grittiness, then there's a place for you in our program. We provide the computers, we provide the resources, the training, the infrastructure, the electricity, the internet, all of that entirely free. So for anyone out there, or anyone that has a sister or a brother or a cousin or whoever that might want to join, we'll be onboarding new students soon. So just pay attention to our social media channels. So our goal is really to ramp things up over the next few years. Some of the things that we're focusing on to do that are empowering local teachers. This is at the youth coding level. We've got a curriculum that we really believe in, where we want to give it away and give it to anyone that's interested in teaching coding to kids. And we see working with the schools as probably the fastest way to scale computer coding for young kids in Zimbabwe. Right now, those 5,000 kids that we're working with, they're all being instructed by our Uncommon students. But if we can empower school teachers with our curriculum, with the training, with the online community, with the resources that they need to teach coding in their classrooms, that means that it could be hundreds of thousands of kids learning these skills. We're also beginning to launch some workshops and part-time courses really designed around people that can't join our full-time program for whatever reason. Maybe they've got responsibilities at home, maybe they have a job, they're in a fixed income position and want to upskill. Our goal is to design courses that are as short as one day to as long as a few months, that can be done in a part-time environment. That way we can just really focus on eventually reaching everybody in the community that wants to learn these skills. The Uncommon Playground, I'll give you guys a sneak peek later, but this is a offline web application that we are building. I think Tawanda Mavondo's in the crowd. He is the main product developer here, has been doing amazing work. I believe Beyond and maybe Kuda are in the crowd also, and they've been doing a lot of the design work on this. And Tapiwa also has been working on this. So we've got a really cool team at Uncommon that is working on this product. The idea is, how do we digitize our curriculum and our youth coding experience, and build an app that would work offline, that we can translate into Shona and into Ndebele, so that we can essentially just install this app on computers, and kids all across the country can learn how to code without us. Our coding curriculum is all at the youth level, is all about building computer games. So it's really fun, and the kids will get tutorials and step-by-step guides, and most importantly, it'll be in an entirely offline environment. So we're trying to build something that works for the market here in Zimbabwe, and we'll be launching the beta very soon, which we're super excited about. And then, of course, just expanding our physical footprint. That's something that we're looking forward to doing this year and in the years to come. So I'll just quickly talk about design at Uncommon. I mean, this is really supposed to be about design. Hopefully you got from these pictures that we care about beautiful things. We want to make our spaces and we want to make our environments beautiful. We want to make our pitch decks beautiful. And for us, design really is critical to everything that we do. So I sort of just broke it down, and I'll go through these quickly. But the environment, which is important to us, the actual design curriculum, what we do as a design business, the product that I just described, and then some brief stats about the design industry. So I'll just show a few pictures of some of our innovation hubs. You saw the first one in Bulawayo. This was the space this was our first space, built in 2019, kind of before containers were ubiquitous and used everywhere. So we were super excited to do something sustainable. And all of our spaces, we try to make really funky and just weird. That's kind of the goal, that people see the space and they wonder what the heck is going on in there. And then, of course, anyone's welcome to come in and learn about what's happening. And we really want our students to be proud of the environments that we're working in. We feel like that's really important. You shouldn't have to leave Kwadzana or DZ and go into Harare to get sort of a world-class experience. So you shouldn't have to leave Zimbabwe and go to New York City to see and feel what it's like to work in a cool environment. So our goal is always, one, to create sustainable spaces using recycled materials, using solar power. Two, to make the spaces feel really unique in the context in which they are. So our first containers and innovation hubs were pretty simple from an architectural standpoint. I'm super excited about the two projects that we're going to be working on this year. This is a render of our space that we're building now in Mbari. We've partnered with the Mbari Art Space, which is basically a collective of artists that are all working, and some who are from Mbari. And they've got an entire beer hall that they're renovating into an artist residency and workshop area. And we are partnering with them as their their technology and sort of community engagement partner. And what we can't wait to see is how this collaboration between techies and entrepreneurs and artists, like what happens after that. And I think that might be interesting for this design community, but we can't wait to just be rubbing shoulders with amazing artists and be teaching them about tech and they teach us about art and to see what happens. Because again, design is everything. A cool note about this space, the lead artist that's running this project in Bari Art Space, Mofat Takadiwa, has actually sold some work to Jay-Z and Beyonce, which is pretty cool. So we're excited to be part of this project. We're super excited about this kind of multi-container, interesting architectural setup. Just in the last week or two, the containers have been mounted, so progress is underway, and we can't wait to get started there. And then this is a render of our Victoria Falls space, which will begin construction in the next month or so. Again, we're trying to up the ante a bit with our designs, trying to push the limits architecturally and creatively, but all just to make inspiring spaces, just so that our students, our beneficiaries, and our visitors feel like something magical is happening here. And design is the most important element of that. So for us, design is super important in everything that we do. On the education front, I'll just get into this briefly, and luckily I've got some of our design leaders on the call. So if anyone has real questions, they can ask later, and hopefully those guys can chime in. But basically, our whole 12-month boot camp is broken down into a first 6 months and a second 6 months. The first 6 months, students are learning, taking crash courses in design, development, and marketing. In the second 6 months, they're specializing. They're picking one topic that they want to pursue a career in. They're being matched with mentors. They're working on live projects and getting internships in that space. So that's how we've broken it down. And our entire curriculum is a combination of in-class lecture and theory, practical projects, online videos and courses, and then guest speakers and mentorship. So we're trying to be sort of fluid and have a hybrid approach. It's certainly not a purely online environment, and it's also not a purely in-person environment. We're trying to adapt with the times and leverage the best of both the physical, what proximity in a physical space offers, but also what the internet can offer. I was only going to talk about the business that we run inside of Uncommon, but I just figured maybe I'll just show the portfolio. But another interesting part of Uncommon is that we want to be a profitable nonprofit. Our goal is eventually to sustain at least our overhead expenses, but maybe all of our expenses through real work, design and development work and marketing work that we do for clients. And our argument or our differentiator is that when you hire Uncommon to design your apps or build your websites or develop your products, 100% of the profits that we earn as a nonprofit are being funded, used to fund our education mission. So this is something that we think has a ton of potential. We definitely haven't reached our potential yet, but from the clients that we've worked with, they love the idea. They love knowing that their project is funding education and funding opportunities for people that don't have access to these resources. This design deck, I think was made 2 years ago. So I apologize, it's a bit outdated. Beyond Dylan, you're in the crowd. This is a lot of your work that's on here. I emailed you guys a couple hours ago. We need to update this deck, but this is just an example of some of the amazing work that our students and our graduates are doing around product design, logo design, app design, and also web design. And these are some of the services that we're excited and able to offer to clients anywhere. And we've worked with clients from Zimbabwe, South Africa, California, America, the UK, so all over the world, which is really a cool experience for our team. And again, something that we believe can really make Uncommon uncommon. Can we be a nonprofit that funds itself through work, or can we compete with for-profit companies but make a lot of money but invest it all into other people's education and opportunities for people that deserve them? So that's a bit about the business, the agency side of Uncommon. And then this is just a very blurry, screenshot of the Uncommon Playground. This is the offline desktop app that I was describing earlier. where we've essentially added all of our games and curriculum and resources onto an web app environment that we'll be able to install into computers across Zimbabwe. And we'll also be uploading this to the internet, eventually building an online version, but people will be able to go to the website and just download this if they want to teach their kids how to code at home. But essentially, we've broken our entire curriculum of games down into levels, and students can click in and follow step by step. We use the Socratic method, so they'll be getting asked questions as they think about how to solve and these projects and write the code to build these games. But this is something that we're very excited about and that we think has serious scaling potential. And again, shout out to the Uncommon team members in the crowd right now that are a huge part of this, or the reason why we're able to do this. So thank you to them. Almost done. So just some interesting stats. Honestly, we started Uncommon as a coding organization, and then we realized that there's other opportunities. We should look into design and we should look into marketing as well. As a designer with a lot of friends in the design industry, I've always appreciated how valuable this skill set is, but I wasn't sure a couple years ago what if these skills would be appreciated in the Zimbabwean business market. But to my surprise, almost half of our graduates that are working are all designers working in the design space. And as many of you probably know, sometimes that starts to get combined. Okay, if you're a designer, can you build my website too, or can you do my marketing also? But for the most part, we're seeing companies that are asking for UX designers or asking for UI designers or product designers specifically because they realize this is a skill. This isn't just a bundle. This is an independent skill that needs a specialist. And also our designers are earning some of the highest salaries for Uncommon graduates, which is cool. Some of these stats, I have to say, I got from ChatGPT. I did not look them up and fact check them. So just take it all with a grain of salt. But I think that I think they sound right. The design industry is on pace to be an $80+ billion industry globally in the next 5 years, which I think makes a lot of sense and is just really exciting. Envision put out a survey and 87% of the companies said they had a really hard time hiring designers. I think about 40% said they had an extremely hard time hiring designers, indicating that there's just a shortage of design talent for the opportunities that exist. The industry is becoming far more specialized. It used to be UI, UX design. Now you're really just a UI designer or a UX designer or a product designer. The industry is fragmenting into highly specialized spaces, which is great. That's going to mean more jobs. That's going to be just a wonderful thing for the design industry in general. I also asked ChatGPT about some of the good and the bads for the design industry over the next few years. And I had just written some of these stats down after I made the presentation. According to a LinkedIn survey, UX design is one of the most in-demand skills in 2023. Another Envision survey said that, whatever this means, companies with a strong design culture have outperformed the S&P by 220% over the last 10 years. So if you put design first, or if you prioritize design, it's definitely makes a difference on your bottom line. I was hesitant to bring this one up, but I'm sure you guys have looked it up. And average annual salary in the US for a UX designer is almost $100,000. Of course, take that with a grain of salt, but there's a global shortage of designers and even in some of these higher income earning markets. So the opportunity for remote work is huge. And I will say we're making partnerships with some of Zimbabwe's largest outsourcing companies, and they're really interested in designers as well as marketers and coders, but they definitely are interested in working with designers. Just to make sure ChatGPT wasn't giving us just the good, because I talked about if they're going to take our jobs. They said that in the design industry, some of the negatives seem to be long hours, people feeling underpaid or underappreciated. There's certainly in America a gender pay gap in the design industry, but unfortunately that's almost in every industry. And then teams that have limited design budgets that are sort of constraining the designers and their creativity. But I think all told, there's just a lot of great opportunities. It's a great time to be a designer. And that's it for my presentation. I definitely want to, if there's any questions that I can answer or some of the Uncommon team members could answer since they're on here, that's great. But I wanted to pose a question to you all that I thought that I'm pretty interested in, and that's about the role of artificial intelligence in the design space. And the simple question would be this, and anyone feel free to just, I guess, raise your hand and take the mic. But do we think AI, artificial intelligence, is going to replace designers, or is it going to empower designers? So that's my question to you. Once again, thank you, Kim and Kimberly and the entire UX Zimbabwe design community. I hope I didn't go too long with this presentation. I hope it was somewhat interesting, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share a bit about what we're doing. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you all about what your thoughts on AI and design are. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thanks, Peter. Yeah, you guys are just doing such inspirational work, and definitely an interesting question to get the conversation rolling. So if anyone, as Peter says, just unmute, or if your connection's not great, feel free to type something in the chat.
And I can add my thoughts, but I think it'd be really cool to hear from you all first, or hear from somebody else first about this. It's such an interesting idea. At Uncommon, we're starting to talk a lot about AI and the role that AI is playing in all of our lives, and it's so cool to see how interested a lot of the students are, and just hear everybody's ideas, because we're here. We've been talking about AI for a while, but we are definitely here now. It's amazing how fast these tools are getting rolled out.
I think someone said in the WhatsApp group once, like, AI won't replace you. A human using AI will replace you.
Yeah, I mean, it's an argument that you hear people making. Companies, if their goal is to make more profit now, how many developers or designers or whoever technologists can they cut from their team and replace with AI? They're definitely not going to be able to cut everybody, but maybe one developer can do the job of 10 if they're equipped with ChatGPT. That's one argument, downsizing your company, but the amount of incremental profit you can make from reducing headcount is pretty limited, just to whatever those salaries were. I would say what's more exciting is supercharging those 10 developers or those 10 designers. And now what can your company do if you've got 10 AI empowered, supercharged developers and designers on your team? How much faster can you build and deploy products? How much faster and easier can you write code? So rather than just thinking about cutting costs, think about how much faster you can access a large market. I think that's kind of where I stand on AI. I'm hopeful that these tools empower us rather than replace us. But yeah, that's my gut feeling about AI.
Kimberly says AI is a double-edged sword for UX designers, so we have to position ourselves so that we can use it as a tool to empower us.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard it. Sorry, Kim, but you've definitely heard the phrase, I'm sure, innovate or die. And if you're interested in the startup culture and just the history of business, there's so many companies that were the biggest and the best business for a long time that just failed to innovate. The classic example would be Kodak in America, and an incredible film photography camera equipment company that just didn't believe in digital and innovate or die. So Kim, I think you're totally right. We've got to use it as a tool to empower us. There's no stopping technology, even though I don't know if anyone saw the open letter from all these AI researchers asking to just put a pause on ChatGPT and other LLMs, but it's just not going to happen, unfortunately, for better or worse. So I think you're right, Kim. Better to learn the skills and be empowered by them than be wiped out by them. But sorry, Kim, you were reading some of these other answers, which are super interesting.
Ashim says, I think AI will get to replace designers since there's now ChatGPT that can lay out most of the problems with solutions. But firstly, it will empower the designing sector. So I guess short term, Ashim's thinking it'll help us, but in the long term, could be a problem, which I guess, yeah.
Yeah, my quick thought to that, and I've kind of said it before, is my hope is that now it just gets way easier and cheaper to start companies. It used to take a lot of money because you need a couple developers, a couple designers, but now maybe you, Ashim, as a designer or a developer, can leverage ChatGPT to bring your idea to life, to market way sooner, way cheaper. You don't need the startup capital. You've got this AI tool that can help you write the code, or that can help you design the product. So I think best case scenario, or worst case scenario, you're right, it wipes us all out. I think best case scenario, we've got so many more companies that can compete because the cost of bringing a product to life comes way down. And when there's more competition, we get better solutions for the customers. So you could be right. I hope you're not. I hope that long-term the outlook is even better, but it's a super interesting take.
Yeah, I kind of wonder there also if, because it's easier to make products can then be more tailored to specific communities. It's not like a one size fits all Facebook kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of, that's like another sort of pillar of Uncommon. I mean, we think that the one size fits all is really bad for everybody. Technology products that are designed and built by homogenous groups in Silicon Valley, but then distributed globally across the internet for the entire world, that can be dangerous. So our goal is to get more diversity in tech on the creation side, and not just race, but gender and age and geography and class, and just more diversity means more ideas and perspectives. And when you get more diverse perspective on the product development side, I think that we're just going to end up with better products. And the same goes for the company building side. So yeah, Kim, I think you're totally right, and that's definitely something that we believe in strongly at Uncommon.
Yeah, that's cool. What Tawanda says, that AI is a powerful tool in digital product design. It can be used to shorten and simplify UX design processes like user research and data analysis, but it has a long way to go before it can replace the empathy and creativity needed for UX design.
Yeah. Tawanda, you sound just like ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT this question earlier. I wanted to hear what they thought, and that's exactly what they said. Yeah, there's some tasks that can be automated, and AI is going to be really helpful. But when it comes to replicating human empathy and creativity, it's going to be a long time before AI can do that. And I asked them for a time frame, and they couldn't give one. But 10 years from now, they think that design is still going to be super in demand. And by the way, ChatGPT thinks that UX designers are that's a very safe job to have, according to ChatGPT. They think that not only is it a growing industry, but because of these things like empathy and creativity and really the need to communicate and understand humans, that it's going to be a long time before AI, artificial intelligence tools, replace it. But Tawanda, you're a great developer, and you're sounding exactly like ChatGPT here.
Nice. I see. Upenyu, you have your hand raised. Would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, definitely. Peter, first of all, thank you so much for the presentation. Really cool just to see what Uncommon is doing. Yeah, it's been a while since I've kind of seen all of the stuff that you guys are doing in the different cities, so it's pretty cool to see. Just on the question on AI, it's been interesting chatting about with other product managers, just around how they've been using AI. A lot of product managers have to be UX designers as well as developers, and the key thing that has come out from the conversation is that it really comes down to productivity. I think that's like the huge benefit that a lot of people are getting, is that it really just speeds up work. Like even now for me, I'm creating product docs using a chat, like another AI tool that's powered by GPT. And it's crazy how much work I can actually get done now. I think it really does lean a lot on the productivity side. Then inherently going into empowerment, right? I think from the UX design perspective, I don't really think it'll replace designers, mostly because at the end of the day, you have to input something, right, into any sort of AI tool. And it's about knowing what you need to input, right? What questions you have to ask. And if you don't have those fundamental skills or knowledge, it can really be a useless tool. Like you can't give, ChatGPT to someone who doesn't really understand UX design and say, hey, give me a fully designed app. Yes, they could type it in and yes, they can get an output, but at the end of the day, there's little things that might be off. It might be the color of the button. It might make sense for that button to be orange, but when it should be green, for instance, just as an example. So I think that's like what's going to be interesting in the coming years is to see how good people get to getting the right outputs out of ChatGPT, right? Or any other AI tool. Like creating prompts is going to be, I feel like that's going to be a much needed skill in the future.
The prompt engineer.
Exactly. Like I really predict that every job post in the future is going to be like, can you write prompts as a skill? So yeah,
Totally.
that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I just have a question for this community. I noticed that it's UX Zimbabwe, and is that because it's really focused on experience and sort of the research side and less on the interface design side, or just because I think for your comment, Upenyu, that it seems like the UX is going to be super valuable if these AI tools can maybe start to do some of the actual designing, but it's the UX and the psychology and the understanding of why, design principles, that's super important. I think UX isn't even like you said, it's really safe. Someone needs to understand design to work with the AI. But just a question, Kim, for the community, why it's UX and not UI UX.
Yeah, so UX, we kind of just treat that as like the umbrella term for everything, and UI kind of falls in there too.
Okay, I'm out of the game. I've been out of the game too long.
Yeah. But everyone does something different, so that's how we roll. But yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Penny, thanks for that thought, though. That really was spot on.
Kimberly?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what you just said, Kim. So aside from the UI designers, we even have human-centered designers and researchers and product designers as well. So the term is just all-encompassing, really.
Awesome. Yeah. Very cool.
There was something you said towards the end of your talk there that ChatGPT said was that one of the issues with designers is there's some kind of burnout, or like they're working long hours at least, and you would kind of hope that if AI makes us more productive, we'd actually have some time to take a break. But I think that's been the problem throughout history, is we get more technology and we're just more competitive. But
yeah, certainly in the capitalist world that we live in, there was a study that came out of France, I think recently, either France or the UK, and it was about a 4-day work week, and it was very comprehensive with a large data set, and productivity and performance and the bottom line was just better for in a 4-day work week than a 5-day work week. So maybe we can get policy, down to something like that, and with these tools we're already 10 times as productive, so there's no loss there. But my gut, at least thinking about America, is they're just going to slam their foot on the gas and try to go even farther, even faster. And I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that we can see better work-life balances and use AI to create this more leisurely society where we get to pursue creative endeavors. But I think there's also a good chance that people will be super motivated by money, and the race is already on. So I don't know. I wonder what other people think about this idea. This question was actually posed to me almost 10 years ago in San Francisco, speaking with a venture capitalist who is super concerned about artificial intelligence and what happens in a jobless society. I mean, his belief was that inevitably AI is going to replace the jobs, and then what are humans going to do? How are we going to survive if there's no jobs? And he didn't have the answer. He said he'd been going around the world giving this talk and didn't come up with a good answer. I wonder if anyone here has thought about it. But also don't let me hijack the conversation with that. But Dylan, I think you unmuted yourself. Love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, yeah. I once had the same conversation with my dad about how AI is, replacing quite a lot of jobs, and but we are failing to figure out this simple problem of surviving in a society where you don't need a job, where you can just
Yeah.
get food, get your bills paid, and everything else without having to pay for anything, and just let AI do the rest. I think time will tell. I think if you look at history, if you had told someone that one day you are not going to be able to be farming hay to feed the horses, they would have told you you're crazy. But here we are, and horses are long gone, and the world hasn't collapsed. So we just hope that we'll find a way to integrate that into the new way we live. And I think watching a lot of movies over time about AI, whether it's Terminator, iRobot, has created a very rigid way of thinking about what AI is and what it is about, and it's kind of like going up against us or something like that. But at the end of the day, it's humans that are creating it, and if it's taking its own life form, hey, I don't know, but it's quite an interesting world that we're going in. That in the next 10 years, we might be seeing something totally different. But from the discussion that was said, I was actually reading an article where it was saying there's now a prompt engineer. It's a new career that just came up, and it's paying like 150,000 a year, which just feeding ChatGPT the right prompts and the right. So it's another job or career path that has been opened up. So innovation will keep on going, and we just have to adapt to whatever is going to come through.
Yeah, I mean, social media marketer, that job didn't even exist 20 years ago. Social media didn't exist. And now almost every business in the world probably has someone doing their social media. So, I mean, the history is full of examples of new jobs created by new technologies, and also old jobs being wiped out by new technologies. So yeah, it's super interesting. Dylan, before you made that point, you were talking about just how we're going to make money. You and your dad wondering how are we going to make money to feed the bills. That part, maybe we figure that out. I'm also curious in what do people do with all their free time and just like how does society function when we don't have to work? Maybe there's universal basic income, the robots are doing the work, the government's sending out money to everybody, and now we just is that liberating and we get to enjoy the spoils of this beautiful world? Or does work actually give us purpose, and does work make us feel like we're contributing and adding value, and will we lose that? Is work an essential part of human life? So that's kind of another interesting thread, but you can go down, this stuff is so interesting and so hard to understand or figure out.
Yeah, I guess an interesting thing is if you look at richer countries, they tend to have more like sports leagues and like professional leagues for different sports. So you wonder if like all countries like are become richer through AI, then can we just play and become like professional gamers or professional sports people?
Yeah, musicians and comics. Yeah. I mean, those I don't know, maybe musicians and comics will be replaced by AI. I think it might be a little bit dreary to go to our AI comedy show, but maybe. But you're right, athletics, these sort of leisure things, I think that they'll be around. Kim, I'll just read this other comment / question from Zivanai. Unfortunately, as with much stuff online, you can't easily access ChatGPT from here in Zim. Any viable workarounds you guys have found by any chance? And Kimberly's talked about Proton VPN, using a number outside of Zimbabwe. This is like such a fascinating topic to me. Again, the whole ethos of Uncommon is that there's communities and regions and people not that just don't have access to these skills, and it's often geographic. And it's not that it's just, for example, America, they have it. A place like Zimbabwe, they don't. there's parts of New York City where kids don't have access to these skills and other people do. But for the example of ChatGPT, it doesn't work in a lot of countries in the global South. I was trying to figure out why. A lot of it has to do with politics and the agreements that countries have with each other. For example, America doesn't work with North Korea or Russia, so I don't believe that ChatGPT is not available there. There's also certain trade agreements and privacy and security agreements. So it's not like this technology should be available everywhere. I think it's important for humanity that everybody has it, but it's really just like politics and policy that's the reason why. But that's a super fascinating thing to look into, why it's not a workaround. Kim and Upenyu, thanks for already adding some ways to do it. I know you can do it. I know that our team is using ChatGPT in the classroom, and it is possible. I would definitely recommend everybody play around with it if they can. It's super fascinating.
Just a point, I feel this inability for people to access ChatGPT from, for example, Zimbabwe, it really pulls us back. Like right now with Uncommon, you're doing work to try and teach students to embrace technology and to use it and advance their careers. But their progress is impeded by examples like this, where they can't access ChatGPT, yet other people, let's say in the States right now, they're becoming masters at coming up with ChatGPT prompts. So it's one step forward, two steps back, and it really begs the question, what are we doing? Is it helping? Is there ever going to be a time where we'll catch up?
Yeah, Kim, I think that I was having this conversation with a Zimbabwean just last week, based in San Francisco, started and sold 3 technology companies. This AI is either going to be like the great equalizer that can really close the gap quickly, or it's going to be gas on fire of the digital divide. And right now, I think it's gas on fire. I think it is going to make things worse, because we're in contexts and environments. I mean, how many billion people in the world don't have internet access? So let alone have the right or the ability to use ChatGPT, but don't even have internet access or reliable electricity. It's got potential to be the great equalizer, but until we figure out infrastructure challenges and policy challenges, and that involves politics and economics, which is really slow moving and hard to figure out, it's going to be tough. I think solutions like Starlink could be great, and just a move towards a more green and renewable energies could be really great, and help reduce some of those issues. But on the political side, that's why we need to train. That's why we need to teach, train more developers and designers here locally in Zimbabwe, and then you guys, Zimbabwe can build its own LLM and have its own version of ChatGPT. But I think, Kim, it's such an important point. It's sort of at the heart of what Uncommon stands for, is that these are basic human rights. And in the internet age that we live in the artificial intelligence era that we're in, we definitely believe that these are basic human rights, and everybody should have access to these skills. Otherwise, this widening gap is what destroys societies, and it's really dangerous. So yeah, Kim, we need to, I don't know, become activists and really try to get policy changes and investments by big companies into infrastructure, not just in a country, but also in communities in the country. Because Harare, I think, has 5G internet everywhere, but you can ask anyone in any of our students, the internet that we're paying a fortune for is terrible. So yeah, inequality is a huge problem, and not having access is a huge problem. I'm right there with you, Kim. But we can't lose hope. I don't want to end on that. We have to stay optimistic and
keep on fighting.
Totally. And communities like this, groups of young people like this, are going to be the difference makers. So I think it's critical that this community grows, and that we all support each other as technologists and entrepreneurs, and just people that are fighting for a more just society where these opportunities are available to everybody. And just with that said, for anyone that's not in the Uncommon community, please reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn. My email is peter@uncommon.org. If we can bring you into our community as a as a guest speaker or a mentor or a volunteer or a student, we'd love to welcome you into the community. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Yeah, as we come to the end, that's kind of what I was going to close by asking you, like, what are some of the ways you can see us working together, our community, with Uncommon, and are there any ways that our community can support you? So those are some great.
Yeah, just off the top of my head, I mean, beyond Dylan, some of our designers on the call, I think our design, the students that have just chosen to specialize in design, they should be a part of this community. If it's as simple as joining a WhatsApp group, I think that's an amazing first step, really easy collaboration. But also to anyone in this community, our mentorship program is super simple. It's about an hour a month, and we can guide you a bit, but really it's just about you and the student getting to know each other, talking about the industry, a lot of what this community is already doing. We're always looking for mentors. So that's another way that we can get involved, Kim, with these two organizations. And then just keeping the dialogue going. We're a nonprofit. There's no competition. We believe everybody should have these skills. We have a long way to go until everyone gets these opportunities. So any way we can partner with groups that are like-minded is beneficial. You know, we think it's a win.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks so much, Peter. It's been amazing having you here. We're going to stay. I'm just going to leave this room open if people want to continue talking, but feel free to head off now, Peter, and anyone else who has other commitments or needs to get to sleep.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I hope it was interesting. Definitely, if you want to continue the conversation, just connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to keep chatting about some of this stuff. I don't have any of the answers, but I'm super interested in questioning them and exploring some of these topics. So really thank you for the opportunity, Kim and Kimberly and the UXZim community, and really looking forward to staying in touch and seeing what we can do in Zimbabwe and with this community. So thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter.
Bye.